Three-Eye Atlas. That is the big story along the way. And when I heard about it, and I heard about the weirdness, everything from alien craft to it's going to crash into Mars, Jupiter, the sunward tail, and so forth, I immediately thought of James McCanney, who wrote the book, literally, on foreign bodies in the solar system and comets, etc. And we will be talking to him just in a minute.
And now, live from Chicago, here is the Black Knight of Talk Radio, James Arthur Yancek.
3MI Atlas. That is the talk of the town, and it's funny how everything is going on with what it is. And I want to go to the horse's mouth, no pun intended, and talk to James McCanney. But I want to mention I've been doing work with AI lately, and a lot of it's all just like the old days with doing search engines. It's skewed, right? And it's skewed to certain ways and so forth. But I have found one AI that I've been working with. It's pretty good. Gab.com has an AI called Arya, and I actually to start this, I got it to run up James McCanney. Because in years past, you've always get the propaganda stuff against it, but it was actually kind of impressed with what she said. So let me go with her and see what. Let's hear what she says.
Thank you, James. Well, James McCanney presents a radically different cosmological model that challenges mainstream astrophysics. His Plasma Discharge Comet Model suggests comets are not dirty snowballs, but electrically charged objects interacting with the sun's plasma environment. He argues that our solar system functions as a complex electrical circuit, with planets and comets acting as capacitors and charge carriers. McCanney contends that conventional astronomy ignores plasma physics and electrical phenomena at celestial scales. His work proposes that comet tails aren't sublimating ice, but rather plasma discharge phenomena. He's also written about planetary electrical interactions influencing Earth's climate and geological events. His books include Planet X, Comets and Earth Changes, Principia Meteorologia, The Physics of Sun-Earth Weather, Calculate Primes, The Direct Propagation of the Prime Numbers, and the Diamond Principle.
How about that? It's about time we get somebody who can do the job and tell you about the person without having the programming. So let's bring in James McCanney himself, and we'll start talking. James, it's great to have you here on Feet to the Fire.
Well, thank you, James. Yeah, that was interesting. Typically, your Wikipedia, your National Wiki, or any of the common attacks, but this actually stated something that's correct. It was, given the amount of time she had, I think she encapsulated it pretty well, for the average person. And she made some minor mistakes, but, for the average person, that would be a good introduction.
I actually did an interview. I haven't finished doing the post-production on it, but I did an interview with the AI where I asked it questions about AIs in general and the various ones. And I was kind of impressed with the answers. It seemed honest, both with the limitations that the AI has as well as what the other ones are doing. So I thought I would try that out today in our talk. But so again, welcome here. Three-Eye Atlas. I'm hearing all the stuff that it's going to hit Mars, Jupiter, it's going to bring aliens to Earth and so forth. And like I said in the intro, I wanted to talk to you because you are the guy with the electronic universe model, the plasma discharge and so forth. And that the reason why it's going across the grid, the particle grid, and shorting out the solar capacitor and so on. So I wanted to let you kind of give us an explanation of it and anything particular about this and what will you see happening?
Okay, there's two aspects to this Comet 3I Atlas. First of all, it's brand new. It was discovered in July of this year. They went back in databases and found data points from telescopes that had been observing the heavens, and they literally found back to May. So, I mean, but this is very recent, a very recent discovery. So the first thing is it's from outside the solar system. It's on a hyperbolic orbit. And so that means that it's going to leave the solar system eventually here in a couple months and never come back. But the twist on this is it's, according to standard science, doing some very strange things. And I have this poster behind me. This is my studio poster. But the Plasma Discharge Comet Model, which is the correct model for comets, the first thing you have to know is all of these people, whether they're chat, YouTubers, fly by night, and there's hundreds of new YouTube channels talking about this. You have a Harvard professor, Avi Loeb, talking about it being an alien spacecraft and all these unusual things. They are all using the dirty snowball comet model, which has been thoroughly discredited. And so that's one of the strange aspects to this, is why are they using an outdated, incorrect comet theory? And I'll get into that. So anyway, the science side of it is that this comet is very normal. There's nothing alien about it. There's no reason to claim alien spacecraft or technology. There is an alien aspect to comets in general, and I'll talk about that. But the second part of this, however, the story behind the story, and why is this getting so much attention? And this is now out on the second order. It's been on Fox News. It's been on prime time. It's been in with the alien twist. And so the bottom line is that this is a psyops that had been planned long ago. And they were just waiting for some celestial object to come into the solar system. And it turns out the 3I Atlas fit the bill. It's probably in the 1950s, a guy named Wernher von Braun, we all know him as the father of the space program. The rocket scientist from Germany came over here on Operation Paperclip and lived out his life. He was the author, the promoter of the moon program with large 3-stage rockets, etc. And so, but on his deathbed, he made a number of predictions, and he said there's going to be a movement towards a one world government. And he said there will be various stages. The last two stages, one was the fight on terrorism, this eternal boogeyman that we have to fight. We can't see him. We don't know who he is. There might be a name or two. But anyway, that happened at 9/11. So there was an event and a follow-up psyops, which robbed rights and benefits and of the general public. And it cast the entire world into this mad scenario, right out of Alice in Wonderland. The last stage that von Braun talked about was a false flag alien invasion. Allah brings us up to date with 3I Atlas. And so what is all this going on? And when you look at the AI generated content that's coming out, hundreds, thousands of videos, this is blanket coverage. This is blanket coverage, which means that if, unless you are a guy living in the woods and shoots deer for your food and has no radio, no communication at all, maybe that guy has not heard of this. Other than that, everybody has heard of this with the alien twist. A video just came out today using an AI-generated Mishukaku, stating that in 73 days, multiple races of aliens will converge on Earth. And so anyway, do you see where this is going? This is just, well, there again, it's completely against YouTube rules. YouTube has very strict rules. If you or I tried to put a image of somebody else on YouTube and put a talking point in AI generated motions and moving the mouth and everything, they would take it down because it violates YouTube rules. Basically, the YouTube rules state that you cannot have an artificial person voice and then to take a script that is not from that person and put it on YouTube. It's against the rules. But hundreds, thousands of these YouTube videos are out there, and they'll get, they might have a couple thousand subscribers. Within 6 hours, they have 500,000 views. What? How does that happen? You know, so they're pushing this stuff out there against the rules of YouTube. If you or I tried to do that, remember back in COVID, they would ban anything that talked about, unless it was standard from the standard medical community. Yeah. But now it is, yeah. But yeah, you have to keep all your own content under lock and key. But the point is, there's two aspects to 3i Atlas: the scientific side. So why are they using outdated, incorrect scientific theories to describe something and then saying, oh, this is so unusual, it's got to be an alien spacecraft? So now you can see why they had to maintain this dirty snowball comet model throughout all the decades, after knowing, for example, in 2018, the head of NASA Space Science Division, this is the top science dude in NASA, came out and stated that comets are not dirty snowballs. So why did they continue to use it? Well, NASA is controlled by the CIA, and this gets a little bit deeper into a Mossad CIA combination. Because what's the end game? The end game is one world government control. Because the only way we can fight aliens is if we have a one world unified government. And this goes all the way back to von Braun. This has been in the planning for a long time. The tools that they did not have even 5 years ago were AI generation of content, and AI control. Now, right now, Palantir is a company that is installing at record pace remote viewing, remote sensing equipment all over the United States. You have when Trump was first elected, everybody thought he was the savior. He was but his very first guy he puts up there after taking office in January is Larry Ellison, who's putting billions of dollars into the same thing that Palantir is putting into, is the remote monitoring of the public, and how everything will be better when we have monitoring. There will be no crime. The police will not be able to make false arrests because everything will be monitored. He said this, on live TV as Trump is standing there applauding him. Right now, just give you another example, they're going into Venezuela and claiming it's for drug trafficking. Well, Venezuela has had a naval blockade for 10 years. You can't get a roll of toilet paper in or out of Venezuela. And the boats they're sinking are offshore fishing vessels that have a range of about 100 miles, and have no ability to get to the United States. And even if they did, how would Venezuela deliver drugs and then launder the money and somehow bring it back to help their economy? I mean, it's such a far-fetched story. It doesn't even make any sense. But what they're trying to do is get rid of the president of Venezuela, install this woman who is supposedly for democracy and rights of the people, and her first action would be to take the embassy of Venezuela and put it in Jerusalem. So you're starting to see all of these connections where they're in. Of course, Venezuela has the biggest oil fields in the world. It dwarfs the Mideast. it dwarfs the Alaskan oil fields. It dwarfs, I mean, all the rest of the oil fields in the world combined could not meet what Venezuela has. So they're after the oil, clearly not getting rid of a few offshore drug fishing boats claiming they're drug dealers. But anyway, the reason I'm giving this, let's take another example. The farmers have bought into the Monsanto program where they buy the seeds every year. They are bound to this economy, and all of a sudden, the last 2 years, Monsanto has jacked the price of seed way up, and fertilizer that you need to go with it. So this year, at least 25% of independent farmers will go out of business. What do? If you look at the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, the first thing they did was confiscate all the farms and take them out of private ownership. And of course, everybody starved to death because there was no food. But we have seen this before. This playbook, the Marxist communist playbook, is coming out. But this is all wrapped together. And 3i Atlas is the keynote, so to speak, to bring in the new one world government, the new world order.
Is it that close? It's going to be here this year or past this year. I mean,
right. Oh, it's already had its closest approach to the sun, and it's on its way out towards Jupiter. But remember, it'll be here, another year, where it'll be within the solar system, what we call it. But it's going to pass Jupiter in March. But anyway, the videos that you see on YouTube, this is not little Johnny sitting in grandma's basement making up a couple of YouTube. This is a well-orchestrated, highly funded, dystopian psyops unraveling right before your very eyes.
Well, what about the other bodies that they're seeing coming with it? There's other comets they're saying that are
Wait. But there again, we don't have any data. European Space Agency, NASA claims that it cannot let anything out because their government is shut down.
Yeah.
and here's another part too. If you look at the government shutdown, it's over ridiculous things. To imagine you're shutting the whole country down because of a couple little points, no. There's much more going on behind the scenes. So you cannot move in a new world government if the United States government is functional. So it's becoming very clear that the government shutdown is coordinated with all the rest of this.
So, so let's say we have another 5, 6, 7 months, maybe a year of Atlas in the story. Is it close enough to impose the world government to use this
there again?
one?
Okay, let me just clarify that the comet. Remember, now that the comet's here, they're saying it's slowing down, that it's dropping off alien spaceships. So the aliens are here.
Oh, I see. Okay,
I saw it today. The comet can go.
Okay.
Bye. Now we got the aliens here. And the video I saw today was a mock-up of Michio Kaku, who they've been using heavily, another guy, Brian Cox, a physicist from England, who does a lot of YouTube, but they're using their images because they have traction with the public. The public thinks that they're smart and listen to them. The one I saw today is claiming that there are multiple alien races that they have been communicating with now, and they're monitoring the communications, and it's going to be in 73 days. That's the one that I saw today, which is all fabrication, of course. But how they can let this out on the internet, because there's another YouTube rule, is that you cannot incite fear in the public without real data. And that's what this is. It's blatant, right in your face. But YouTube is allowing it. So somebody has the ability to override YouTube rules where you and I could not do that.
No. So are we looking at some kind of a refurbished version of Project Bluebeam coming down the road here?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, when these things are scripted, let's go back to 9/11, which was another psyops. When 9/11 happened. The next day, I happened to be working in a high security location, and we had TV monitors up. And it was not related to news or anything. It was related to telecommunications, but we had TV monitors. And so I watched as the psychological operation rolled out. You remember the first day was American flags on the screen, America under attack,
Right.
America is, and then a couple days later it was America responds, America, this was all pre-planned. Huge amounts of investment into psychological warfare for the public to get the public geared up so that they would go marching off to the Mideast to attack basically 7 Mideastern countries. And so, but this was all pre-planned. They didn't just create that day. This was, and I saw a webpage that it was like a circle, and it was like a calendar, and you could like burrow down into like a date, and you could go out and you could see all of the news that would be there in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks. And that's when they went to that date. When that date came, that's what the news story was. It was all pre-planned. It was a huge psyops, very well planned, many years in the planning. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing daily this stuff is rolling out. And we saw, for example, when Avi Loeb first started claiming this was a spacecraft, NASA did not say anything for about 2 months. And all of a sudden, NASA comes in and says, no, it's a comet. We're pretty sure. We don't know what causes all these different things to happen. But we think it's a comet. And then you have a debate between Neil deGrasse Tyson and Avi Loeb, some kind of debate in which deGrasse Tyson defends standard science and Avi Loeb defends his position that all these unusual things mean it's an alien spacecraft. Later, you find Neil deGrasse Tyson converting his story and saying, oh yeah, all this unusual stuff, it could be aliens. And then later you see NASA, instead of saying, no, it's not an alien spacecraft, we understand what it is, they don't release any pictures. They supposedly it was going to come by Mars and we're going to see all these glorious pictures from all the orbiters around Mars. Nothing, not a single photo has been released. And then NASA says, we've invented a series of experiments when it comes closest to the sun. If it passes these experimental criteria, then it's not an alien spacecraft. But you see, it was very subtle. They knew that when that comet came near the sun, it was going to do certain things, which it did. And they go, oh, without saying it was very backdoor. They agreed that it was a spacecraft. You see what I'm saying? This is a well-orchestrated psyop. Somebody planned all of this. And you see this rolling out. So what they're going to say tomorrow, it's hard to say, but they're already saying that multiple alien space, civilizations are coming here, and they're going to come to Earth and take control.
Well, if I can go to the comet for a minute, things that I remember from listening to you and your books and stuff over the years was when the comet was on the other side, the sun started to do some CMEs and flares at the comet. Well, again, referring to your work, it's disrupting the electrical circuit.
They do.
So that was
That's
like
what comets do.
Yeah. So to me, it wasn't a surprise. It was more like, yeah, that's what they do. And the only thing I'm thinking about is when the sun turns around toward Earth, would some of that disturbance come toward Earth as it turns around? Do you think
it could?
Yeah.
It could. Yeah. Yeah. Another one related to that is the sunward spike. One of the very early observations when it was very first discovered was, hey, this thing's got a sunward spike. Well, that's a normal attribute of comets. If you look at the Plasma Discharge Comet Model,
right?
It's normal. Most comets, you don't see it because it's not in the visible range. It could be X-rays. You always have the X-ray cloud out there in much higher energy like UV, but it's not visible on most photographic plates or sensors. or CCD chips. And so you don't see it with most comets, but if you have the right equipment, it's there. The green halo surrounds the comet nucleus. That's a Debye shield. That's an electrical shielding. All of these attributes of the comet. Now they're seeing multiple sunward spikes, which is common also. That the ancients talk about large comets with multiple. Sometimes they have horns. They're literally look like a horn, and it's a plasma effect that happens coming in from the solar wind, and it forms what they call the horns of the bull. These are many, many ancient references. Moloch, for example, is referred to as a bull, and Baal. These are some of the very ancient that come from the Canaanites and the other ancients, the Sumerians. But it's referring to the comets that are the big comets that have these horn structures, and that's a plasma effect. So everything we're seeing from this comet is very explainable by the Plasma Discharge Comet Model, which has been completely shadow banned from publication. And now you can see why. They needed this dirty snowball comet model to claim that all these unusual things are going on with the comet when they're not, to then say, oh, it's all due to aliens.
Is there anything, we'll say the word unique, about the construction of this, since it's from outside of our solar system? One of the things that I was thinking of is that, well, we're inside our own bubble, so when comets come in from around here, it's assumed that they're kind of made out of the same disk that everything else was, and that something from far out maybe would be made up of different stuff. Have you found anything different about it?
Well, there again, it doesn't matter what the nucleus is made of. It's the discharge of the solar capacitor. There again, it's this kind of mental image that something is coming off the nucleus to make the comet. Mm-hmm. And literally nothing is coming off the nucleus, nothing at all. When European Space Agency landed on Comet 67P with their Rosetta mission, it was the Philae lander. They landed on this comet nucleus. There was no water, there was no ice, there was no snow, and there was nothing coming off the nucleus. I talked to the lead scientist there, and I said, what's the closest you detected water to the nucleus? And water is in the tail. You can see it. The comet is there. It's got water in the tail, but it's not coming off the nucleus. It's coming in, and it's hydrogen and oxygen forming molecules of water as this material is drawn in towards the comet nucleus. That's what forms the water in the tail. And then it gets in closer, and those ionized water molecules become neutralized, and then they start to blow out in the solar wind. And so in a lot of cases where there's smaller comets, they don't accumulate on the nucleus, but all of this activity is going on. The Plasma Discharge Comet Model is very complicated. It's very simple in one sense, in that you have this capacitor built up around the sun due to the solar wind, excess current of protons in the solar wind. But when that discharge occurs, there are hundreds of effects that take place. For example, you'll see tail separation, and the part of the tail that breaks off goes away, and that makes perfect sense if you think it's a snowball. Well, the tail broke off, it's going away. But what's really going on is that material was coming in, it becomes neutralized, and the electron beam coming out from the sun hits the nucleus, and it keeps going. So you have a negative charge that's drawing in material into the tail area. And sometimes you have a big influx, and that breaks that tail off, and then it blows out in the solar wind. So everything we're seeing is explainable by the Plasma Discharge Comet Model. This comet is not doing anything unusual. It's just that it's moving faster. So what does that do? The faster moving nucleus discharges higher rate of discharge of the solar capacitor. So it's higher charging. So that even though it's a small comet, it has a much higher charge, much higher electrical discharge, much higher connection with the sun, and in a very small tail. Why does it have a small tail? Because it's moving so fast. It'd be like it'd be like you're trying to catch a bus, and the bus guys goes by so fast, you run towards the bus, and it goes by, and so okay, you missed the bus. That's what's going on in the tail of the comet. So you have relatively small small tail region of the comet because the ionized material is trying to get in towards the nucleus. It sees this thing rushing by, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So that's why the comet has relatively small tail. So all of this is explainable if you use the correct theoretical basis.
Now, let me ask you something. My brother was a lineman for many years, and he told me that whenever a high power line goes down to the ground, what they have to do is they have to hop across the ground, because if they step across the ground, you can actually get to a different potential, and it would arc through you. And this is what I think what's going on with the comet is it's going across, it's hitting these potentials along the way, and it's causing the shorting. Is that a kind of a good layman's example?
That's a good example, yeah. But what you have in terms of outer space is you have this big, you don't have a wire that's carrying the current, you have basically a capacitor. So when a very similar thing that everybody's familiar with is the backyard bug zapper. You have a neon light that attracts the bugs, and around that you have two screens. One is a high voltage screen, and next to that, around that, you have a grounded screen. So what happens is the bug flies in the screen, carries in the ground potential, and this is what you're saying. Mm-hmm. As he gets into that gap between the high and the ground, high voltage and the grounded potential, guess what? It discharges that capacitor right where the bug is. And that's what happens with comets. It's the same thing. And so in the case of, you walking across the ground, there's a voltage difference that's high enough that you could short out and it would go through. And what happens is it comes up through your one leg and out the other, it goes across your heart and kills you. And so
that what you're describing would be explain why when you have a volcano, for example, there's lightning, or the Tesla coil going up, is that you're making that potential, you're standing in the middle of it and allowing it to discharge.
Yeah, and that's what drives hurricanes, what drives tornadoes. That's why we have lightning coming out the top and the bottom of clouds. And you were showing my weather book there, the Principia Meteorologia. Mm-hmm. And I go in there, what causes weather, Yeah,
it was very enlightening to get that. And I remember, I wanted to mention, when you talked about that lander on Comet, I remember you came on my show before it landed, and you laid out what they would find. The hydrocarbons, the no snow, it's temperature. You're laying it all out, and then there it was. So I don't know when someone can predict what would happen, and then it does. That does show the person knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's like once you got the model down, which I do, then you can predict things. Like one of the things I predicted in my very early papers, 1979, is there would be X-rays to the sunward side of comets. And that's because the electron beam is coming in, it sees the negative charge on the nucleus, and it slows down. And that's called Bremsstrahlung X-rays. Bremsstrahlung is a German word for braking, and that's a form of X-rays. And I said, this will be the decisive, nail in the coffin for this dirty snowball comet model, because it has no way to generate X-rays 30,000 miles to the sunward side. And when they discovered it, of course, they had to come up with an idea that would be compatible with a snowball. Absolutely absurd. Mm-hmm. But I predicted that because I could see the physics.
No, I'm also remember years ago just listening to a science news, probably before I was doing the radio. Maybe I was doing it already, but they said that when the solar system is rotating around the galaxy, it basically goes above and below the elliptic plane, and we pass through the plane where there would be more stuff, dust or whatever. There'd be more material along the plane as we were going up and down, and that they predicted there would be more incoming comets and whatnot. But this is like I don't know, 20 years ago or something. This was not something that happened recently. But I remember that story when they started seeing all these comets coming in. One day one to hit Jupiter and so on. It was like, well, we're going through a more dirty part, if you will. Does that make sense? Is that possible? Is this could be why stuff's coming in now?
Well, I don't know how they determine that because really we cannot see our galaxy. We see a band of stars across the sky, and it's really, and relative to that, we're moving very slowly, very, very, very slowly. But I think what's going on is we have much better equipment. This 3I Atlas is only the third interstellar, intruder into our solar system, so to speak. But you got to know this is happening all the time. It's just that now we have equipment through these automated searches like Atlas that can find these. And there's probably could be hundreds every year, thousands. We just don't see them. They're gone. Nobody notices. And in fact, they went back once 3I Atlas was discovered. Like I said, they went back months in other databases of other telescopes, and there it was. There, but everybody missed it. This one caught, and a lot of these are being observed by individuals. So I just think we have better equipment now. We have better automated searches. We're going to see more.
Yeah, so we're going to end up with 10,000 iAtlas at some point.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, it's along that same lines. This guy named Michael Brown, Caltech, ran an automated search engine, and he'd go in at night and look at the data, et cetera. And there were, from the time we were kids, 9 planets. You could name them off Mercury out to Pluto. And all of a sudden, they found the first one. It was called Setna, I think Setna or something like that. Yeah. And then they found another one, and they're going, oh, there's a bunch of these out here. And they started within months, they had thousands of them because okay, and that's just in a small region of the sky where they were looking. So you extrapolate that, and then they said, oh, there's probably some very big ones out here. And they realized they had a problem because remember the old Planet X days? That there would be a 10th planet, meaning the Roman numeral X. For 10. And so they said, there's too much public sentiment that NASA was hiding Planet X, Planet 10 from the public. Well, now they had a problem. Instead of having one Planet X, they had thousands of them. And so what they did is they had an international meeting of astronomers, and they demoted Pluto from being a planet. And they found this lame excuse that if it doesn't clear out the region of space in its orbit, then it's not a planet. Well, Pluto has a companion, it has a moon, has 2 moons. But wouldn't that qualify as being a planet? And the odd thing is if you took Earth and put it out to where Pluto is right now, Earth would no longer be a planet. So their definition was strictly to demote Pluto from being a planet. And the reason being, now NASA can come back and say, well, we're searching for Planet 9. And they don't have to touch that 10 one. They just don't want to go there. But the dichotomy is that they found thousands of planets and they don't know where they came from. Because the standard story was that the 9 planets formed from a swirling dust cloud billions of years ago, and nothing has happened since. Well, where did these other thousands of planets? So they went from 9 to like 1,009 overnight. So standard, the whole problem with standard science, especially in astronomy, is they defined all of these rules long before the space program. And so when the space probe data started coming in, and this was what I ran into when I was at Cornell, the data was coming in, it didn't match what their expectations were. And so they started throwing away data, changing it, coming up with these lame theories, excuses basically for why their stuff didn't work, and they're still doing it to the point where it's obtuse, it's bizarre, the things they're coming up with, and to the point where, like I say, the head of NASA got up on a podium and he said, "Look, comets are not dirty snowballs." well, why do we see all these news articles? Oh, the little icy wander, the little snowy, interloper. What's going on? People have an aversion for the truth. But there's a lot of egg on the face. But what we're seeing is that there's a bigger issue here with changing science. They need these incorrect theories to pawn off on the public to pull off their current, aliens. If you could explain all these properties of 3I Atlas with correct physics, which is what I'm doing, then they wouldn't have a story. They wouldn't have an alien. They wouldn't have an alien go-to. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're talking 3I Atlas and various things around it with James McCanney on his work on it. It's interesting how things have changed over the years, and they were vehemently opposed supporting this snowball thing, and then they just all of a sudden it's not, but there's no backward correction like the people who supported the plasma model theory were correct. There's no like updating the system. It's just they just move on, and whatever suits what their needs are, they take it. Whether it happens to be true now about the plasma discharge, but it didn't matter about truth. It just mattered about what they were doing with the theories. And I never understood about why they look back that everything was created and all the terrible events that have happened all way in the past, and it's all done. And yet it's still happening. And now with the better equipment and so forth, they're having to backtrack on what they said before, and there's nobody like being held accountable for it.
Right. Yeah. And it's very bizarre, very bizarre. But there's other things that have happened. For example, Hale-Bopp. One thing that people should understand, this is not the first time a psyops occurred around comets. This has been going on since time immemorial, actually. And Hale-Bopp was a good example. It was discovered in 1995 by two amateur astronomers, but it really was discovered about 5 years earlier, I found out. In fact, I have a book on this. It's called The Real Story of Planet X. It was 2020 update. The real history of Planet X. And it turns out that a guy named Robert Harrington worked for the Naval Observatory. And around the mid-'80s, his assistant, Tom Van Flandert, pushed him and said, hey, there's this evidence for this other planet out there because it's pulling down, something big is pulling down on Uranus and Neptune. So it's got to be down in that region of the solar system. And so Harrington just, actually they got funding from NASA. There's a contract from NASA that says search for Planet X. And Harrington was actually completing this contract. So he would go to New Zealand every spring with an 8-inch astrograph, which is just a telescope about this big, and set it on a table. And they were they were just taking photographs, and they'd come back to the lab in the Naval Observatory, and they had what they call a blink comparator back in the old days. Today they would do it with computers. But you take two photos, and it's a series of mirrors, and one side the light would blink on, so you'd see one photo, and then the other photo, the light would turn and illuminate the other photo. So it was like these two photos like this, and all the star patterns would stay the same. So if there was anything moving, you could easily see it. It was bouncing back and forth. It was called a blink comparator. And so anyway, they discovered this thing called Planet X. And it was the thing that happened, as I later found out, is that it had a moon. Very important fact, because in astronomy, if you have a companion, a moon of some kind orbiting something, you take the distance from the object to the moon, and you take the period of its orbit, and you can calculate the mass of the central object. Well, they did this, and it turns out that the object that Harrington found was about 4 Earth masses. And then, of course, they went back year after year. And by 1991, they had enough data to show that this thing was on a near direct collision course with Earth. And that is when the CIA shut down NASA. I saw this happening because I knew a lot of people at Goddard and JPL and Los Alamos. And anyway, they started this whole psyops thing. The crazy lady came out of the CIA. She was an operative. Remember, crazy lady talks to aliens. We're all going to die, Planet X. And they picked a date of May 15th, 2003, which they knew was a very unusual large orange moon. Very unusual. And it was going to come up over the horizon. And the cover of her book had this big orange ball. Total psyops. And somebody who would never get the time of day is all of a sudden on all the top radio shows, gets all this attention. And the whole point was that they didn't want anybody to know that the Planet X was Hale-Bopp. The nucleus of Comet Hale-Bopp was Planet X that Harrington discovered. And in fact, I have a whole book describing this.
And I've had all those people on back in the day. I had her on. I've had a bunch of other people along with it. And I went in it looking like, okay, let's find out what they're talking about. It just didn't pan out. I mean, it was wrong.
Right. But anyway, that was another huge psyop that ran for probably 10 to 15 years. And the whole point was to move attention away from Hale-Bopp. In fact, that woman would say, oh, don't even look at Hale-Bopp. That's just this little comet up there.
So Hale-Bopp is rotating around the sun, so it is, a planet?
It's a planet in formation.
Oh, I see.
It grew extensively. It was in the solar system for a period of 6 years. Now look at Comet 3I Atlas. What do we got? About maybe 6 months. When it's within the inner solar system, within Jupiter. Whereas Hale-Bopp was here for a period of 6 years, visible, naked eye visible in the daylight sky. And that was a planet in formation. And it probably was related to other large comets that were in the solar system, potentially related to the Noah's flood. And what happened is it slowed down because of the tail drag. That's another aspect of the plasma discharge comet model. The tail drag slowed it down to where Earth moved forward in its orbit, and it came in late. So we were a quarter of a turn around our orbit by the time it came where Earth was, but it crossed Earth's orbit about 1 million miles from where Earth was. That's about 4 lunar distances. We would have been devastated. It would have been electrical effects, gravitational effects. It would have been a huge influx of material. We could have had a big change in our atmosphere. We could have lost atmosphere. It would have been a real mess. But the other important point is that the CIA kept the lid on it. The CIA controlled NASA. A guy named Dan Golden came out of the CIA to basically put the lid on NASA, get all of the employees to, they had to sign gag orders. They couldn't walk up to a microphone and say something. And so that was a huge psyops for, like I say, a period of at least 15 years relative to that comet.
So what's the next rotation, let's say, of Hale-Bopp? Do they have a...
Yeah, it came in on a 4,250-year orbit. When it left, it was about half of that.
Yeah, because
about 2,600 years.
So that's one of the things about the old Nibiru thing, was if it was on that type of an orbit, it could maintain that orbit because of its extreme elliptic, the famed Nibiru. So that's why I was asking that this thing would have to have changed, but that's still a long time from now for it coming back.
Yeah, well, the 3I Atlas came in, and its original crossing date with Jupiter was March 3rd. I checked that myself. And now it's March 16th, which means it's slowed down quite a bit. That's quite a bit. That's quite a big change. And NASA admits that its orbit is changing. They're calling them non-gravitational forces. But they don't know why it's happening. Well, it's happening because of the tail drag.
So is it going to leave, or will it come back around? Is it going to escape?
No, it's going to leave. It's just on a little bit, just delayed a little bit. And that's only a few days and out of the entire orbit. But see, now there's claiming that the aliens are coming in, and so I think the story of Three Eye Atlas will go away, and then we'll be just hearing about the aliens that are here. And then the governments will be talking to the aliens, and we got to organize the whole world, and that's where it's going. So the comet can leave. Okay, it's done its job. Now the story will morph into dealing with the aliens. There are these multiple races of aliens who are going to come in, and that's where it's going.
So the earthquakes that's been happening, that's reasonable with the fact that it's disrupting the solar capacitor and there's electricity coming all around, particles and so forth. That are these earthquakes that are popping up related to it, or is it coincidence, do you think? Or
no, we have earthquakes going on all
right.
the time. Yeah, and I mean but the answer is no. Gravitationally, something has to be big and it has to be very close to affect us gravitationally, because they're called tidal forces, or they're second range gravitational forces. They're a 1/cubed force, and so it has to be something very big near Earth to affect us gravitationally. And the electrical part is very remote from us. And so any earthquakes, things like that, and you see this all the time too. The comet is causing earthquakes, and it's just completely unfounded in any scientific principles.
Okay, somebody in the chat room was asking, they ask you, if I look at the solar system simulator, it looks very much like we will be sandwiched between Three Eye Atlas and the Sun on January 22nd. And he asked you to comment on that if you have. I don't know what the word sandwich sounds like. It's going to be close, but I imagine it'll be far. But will between the two?
Well, in December we will be between Three Eye Atlas and the Sun.
Okay.
In December, and I don't remember the exact date, but there again, we might see some weather effects. We could potentially see some weather effects.
That was my question I was going to go to, because if, just like the Tesla coil, et cetera, the volcano soot in the air, because there is this, we're in between or whatever, that might cause streams to be higher.
Well, what happens is our discharge, which is a current stream from the Sun to Earth and out beyond Earth, would connect with the comet. And we've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
The comet's going to be pretty far away. It's going to be halfway to Jupiter. So whether those two current sheets will connect, which is possible, it would be for a day or two. And so we could have some errant weather due to that, but I wouldn't expect a lot. But that would be in December sometime. That by January we're going to be moving around the Sun, and the comet is on its way out. So there's no January event relative to Earth.
Mm-hmm. So the we'll call it the fireworks from Atlas is going to be minimum, but the political using of it is going to be the really big danger.
Right. Exactly. They're using it, and that's why also they could have used anything, but this one seemed to fit the bill, and they were ready. The other thing is all of these other factors had to be in place: the AI, the shutdown of the government. If you look at all the factors that have to converge for this to take place, now is the perfect timing.
No, it got me wondering now about the them, saying that aliens landed and all that. I'm very alarmed with Facebook, YouTube. I mean, it's so ridiculous. All these videos are coming out. They're AI produced. They have good vocal. I mean, like I did the vocal earlier. It's a good vocal that they're doing. They're using, and they take videos and edit it in, and they just punch these things out, and they're all over the place, polluting the environment. I have always said that if you can't shut down truth, you can pollute it. And they tried to shut down things with the internet and internet radio and alternatives that it didn't work out well. So now they're just polluting it. It's like it's hard to find anything you can, really trust. And what's good for me is doing this for so many years and having guests on like yourself. When I see these things, I can point out the flaws in it. I find it pretty irritating, but there's so much of it. You can't really stop it. You just have to kind of just avoid it, I guess. Move on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the thing with AI generated content is that in, let's say, a half an hour video, how long does it take AI generated content to be developed by a team of specialists that have been working on this? And they have an agenda, and they probably have an AI engine that's generating their agenda. So they say, okay, topic, da da da. They put it in. Within less than a minute, they have a script that can be read, perfect English. They have a character like Avi Loeb that they match to the script. Or not Avi Loeb, or also Michio Kaku, somebody like that, somebody that's well known and so-called respected by the public. And then within an hour, you have a half an hour video that can be put up on YouTube, and violating their rules, and YouTube lets it pass, gives it a pass.
Yeah. So I can look at it on a more base ideas that if you can put these videos out, you get all of these views real quickly, you can generate YouTube income. So that could be a point of them picking on whatever topic is out there. But then the Black Ops people in the background are like applauding them, like they're doing their job for us by coming up with these little videos.
Well, it is if you look at these channels, who are these people? Yeah. Nobody I've ever heard of before.
No, they're all new. They're just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and they have different names, and even the names you can tell are AI generated. They probably have lists of names. I can't remember any offhand, but the ticket here is AI generation with huge quantities, and this is the failure of AI. Everybody thinks I get 20 emails a day. You have to have AI on your webpage. You have to do AI. You have to do your videos AI. They're going to generate so much content that nobody can possibly watch it all. Mm. And so it's going to be self-defeating. Mm. But don't tell that to anybody. AI, I have another book that I've never actually published. It's called Death by AI. And it goes through the whole thing, because I spent 25 years of my life in the computer industry, in the telecommunications computer industry, as a principal systems engineer. And we've seen these things come along before. Knowledge-based systems, they were called, all kinds of different names, and they've all failed because people put a lot of money into creating them, but no money into maintenance or anything else. And so, but the only problem with what's going on now is the amount of remote viewing not remote viewing, the cameras, the capturing of data on every person, face recognition. You're walking down the street in New York, and your image goes up, it's recognized, and it's put into a database. James was in New York on such a date. Mm. And then for what reason? And eventually 2-3 years later, something comes up, and it's all of this information comes out on you that you didn't even know existed. But the ability and the amount of memory, look at this too. We're generating a video here. You have memory. It's going to be uploaded to YouTube. The quantity of memory is staggering. It is just, people don't realize all of the information that's being captured on people and by the way, when they erased your videos, they didn't go away completely. They're someplace. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it irritated me that I understand them trying to, if you take their face value, they want to get misinformation out that's dangerous and all that. I don't believe that, but let's just take it at that. How is the information dangerous after the fact up to 8 years earlier? Yeah. I mean, the only danger is that it was proven in time to be true, and now we have to get rid of that past history that showed up front there was a problem, and so now when you look back, there's nothing there.
Well, and that's the Communist Manifesto too, is to accuse people of crimes based on previous, things that were legal at a certain time. All of a sudden they're not, and you're drawn into a kangaroo court and sent off to the gulag.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what. That's what. When Marx wrote his Communist Manifesto, he didn't create that. He just summarized all the techniques that had been used to overthrow governments, to bring in new governments, to marginalize people or groups. Social engineering is not new. That's just a new name for the Communist Manifesto, where you need a ticket to get food for your family because you're a good party member.
mm.
Oh no. Yeah. When the these groups are working in the background day and night to install this, and the convergence, what we're talking about here with 3i Atlas, just to summarize, the convergence of technologies, of timing, of events, and goals, all at this one point in time, where now is the time they're going to, like I say, this is not little Johnny sitting in his basement, putting out AI videos. This is a highly coordinated, highly funded, well planned for a very long time psyops that's rolling out.
And it seems like it's a good time to do it, or there's they want to do it quickly because of the popular resistance that's popping up around the world. It's like you got to try and get this forced in before it's too late for them.
When they also have to do it in the shadows, I'm not going to say on the air, but you can come to your own conclusion as to who's doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and what groups and.
Yeah, I know. I've dealt with that shadows, and I've been right now, in all the years I've been doing this, and all the topics I've been doing, I have a more aggressive hacking campaign on my website than I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like everything's coming like to a head, and they're really putting in a lot of attacks. Yeah. So
well, imagine the level of paranoia of these people, because they're extremely vulnerable. So they have to get this in place and get the control, the public controls and everything in place before it turns on them. Hunting season turns around. And that's what's going on. They have to pull the lever.
Yeah. Now I got it in the chat room. Paul in the chat room said, so they're saying that they knew the comet was coming and they're using it for false flag. I would say that they were waiting for something to come. The comet came.
That's what I said. That's
right.
Exactly
I was just
what I said.
saying this for Paul's benefit. They were.
Yeah, because this comet was only discovered in July.
Yeah.
And like I say, they look back in telescope records back to May. So this comet was not on the radar when they were planning all this. But the event, they needed something, and this was it. It could have been, for example, back in the Hale-Bopp days, where you had a very big visible comet. It could have been easily used there. In fact, there was a whole psyops relative to aliens regarding Hale-Bopp, if you remember.
Yeah, Heaven's Gate.
Yeah. And most people don't know the full story. Let me just give you a little quick summary of that, because most people just have the cleansed version of that. After those people were killed, they scrubbed their webpage and put up another webpage. But here's the story. The term Heaven's Gate, these people were programmers, very, very good programmers.
Yeah.
And what they were doing was they were building firewalls and encryption software that the CIA could not break, because that was the time too. Remember, Billy Gates was being sued by the FBI. They were taking him to court. And all of a sudden, everything was fine. He was hanging out with Bill Clinton. He got a free telescope down in South America, a big commercial grade telescope. All kinds of things went good in Microsoft. What he did is he folded and he allowed backdoors into the Microsoft operating system, software, etc. Okay. But anyway, the Heaven's Gate people were building software that the CIA could not break into. and they wanted your computer, everybody's computer, accessible. And so the backdoors that hackers use were there by design, because they didn't care if the hackers got in. They needed access to your computer on a wide scale. And if there was a software package that prevented that, they'd have to retool. So anyway, they had told these Heaven's Gate people to stop doing this. So that was one strike against them. Oddly enough, they had some kind of like a sect type of belief that a comet was going to come in harboring aliens to come and pick them up and take them off to another world, kind of like a, but anyway, be that as it may. So all of a sudden, Hale-Bopp shows up. And they had a following of about 30,000 people around the United States and possibly worldwide. And so anyway, when Hale-Bopp was discovered, the message went out, and these people, about 30,000 people, were going to converge on LA and go sit out on the Hollywood Hills and wait for the aliens to come get them. And so anyway, the other thing that the CIA is aware of is that large groups of people, when they concentrate, have a tremendous power. And you go back to any of the psyches you talked about, Christ or the Hindus or the Sikhs or anybody else, they realize that outside, sitting on a mountaintop, groups of people have tremendous power. They have a connection into like the cosmic universe, you might call it, the conscious universe. And so anyway, what we call it the CIA porridge. It was the same poison they used with the James Jones group in South America. They went in and poisoned them and then said it was all these people committed suicide. That's the real story of Heaven's Gate. But most people don't know that. So
that makes sense, because one of the things I could not understand was these people weren't, I mean, they were smart people. They were intelligent people. And when of course, I saw the website after the fact, right? So I saw the replacement, but it took me about a minute to realize that this stuff was baloney. So I couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how all these guys who were high IQs and, and so now it starts to make a little more sense.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a lot more to it. But also to complicate it a bit more, there was a group working for the federal government, building a software system to manage the government. Basically, it was called Promise Software, PROMIS. And those people came out of the CIA, and eventually most of those employees got security clearances and were active on the internet, filtering the internet and acting as players during the whole Planet X, crazy lady talks to aliens. That whole thing was supported, and we had NASA providing her with pictures on a daily basis of star fields that you couldn't get with a regular telescope. Anyway, the craziness that went on during those years, just insane. That's why I have a book that describes all of this. And then you had the Hawaiian astronomers Ali Hainau and what's his name? Forget offhand. But remember that Art Bell had posted a couple pictures with Hale-Bopp with the companion. Mm. And that came from Chuck Schrammick and Brown, Courtney Brown. Two different sources showing the companion. And so Ali Hainau from Hawaii came in with a photograph that was from Photoshop, basically removing the companion, saying there was no companion. Well, if you can look this up, the Hale-Bopp conference in the Canary Islands that followed Hale-Bopp, the first discussion on the topic by Ali Hainau was the companion of Hale-Bopp. So they lied to the public and then had a conference where they talked about the companion. I mean, it's so twisted. It is so twisted, everything that happened during that time. But the point is that there's a huge amount of paranoia in the intel agencies. And when they get their hands on stuff, they're very strange. The things they do are very strange. And least of all, to let the public know really what's going on. So they create these misinformation campaigns. And right now, I just want to quick show this, James. I showed you this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I have a book that's coming out. It's actually for sale right now in pre-sale. It's called The Physics of Three-Eye Atlas. And the subtitle is, with addendum, False Flag Alien Invasion, PSYOPs to Bring in the New World Order. So anyway, it's available on my webpage. And by the end of this week, it'll be up on Amazon. So, and it's a very we've just kind of scratched the surface here because we only had an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a complicated story. But I think we've hit the major points here of what's going on.
Right. So, so Hale-Bopp with the companion would actually end up being Hale-Bopp's moon, the planet Hale-Bopp, whatever.
That's what, and see there again, go back to Harrington. When he discovered it, Planet X, literally the nucleus of Hale-Bopp was Planet X, Harrington's Planet X that he discovered. But when Harrington discovered it, it had a moon. That's how they determined the mass of the planet. And so anyway, you could see Hale-Bopp, it had this pulsing. It was like on a periodicity. And eventually that moon, because of the tail drag, its orbit fell in and in until it finally became one with the main nucleus. So that's what happened to the companion. It wasn't a spaceship.
Oh, yeah.
But be that as it may, it was interpreted as being a spaceship. And anyway, we could go.
Right. Well, so in closing, all the attributes of Three-Eye Atlas are easily explained in the Plasma Discharge Comet Model. It's behaving normally.
It's very normal.
And the abnormality of it is being done with some kind of a PSYOP for, maybe perhaps unite around against the alien invasion. Actually Reagan said something about that too when he was talking about how all our differences would disappear if we had an outside alien force. And with the Project Blue Beam, where they're supposed to be able to do stuff in the atmosphere using holograms and whatnot, and so on, looks like they're maybe pulling this out because they're getting a little desperate with all of the populism, political populism going around in the world. It looks like we're coming to like a head, if you will. And and along comes Three-Eye Atlas to give it a little, we'll use that. It's like COVID. The COVID had all kinds of problems where it came from, all that, but regardless of how you think it happened, it's how they used it to scare everybody.
Right.
So you can see, it all fits in a nice slot. And looking forward, so like as we close here, just for the heck of it, do you got any kind of guesses of what we can see next? I mean, I don't necessarily mean in the sky, but do you think, because I'm noticing all of a sudden whole networks are going offline and going back online, and the whole phone systems are going down and coming back. It seems like they're getting ready for the big turnoff.
Yeah, and there again, if you have only certain sources of information, and of course people have their telephones and they have this emergency alert system, and then they're sending out information, that's your only source of information. There won't be any corroborating or competing concepts. And the electricity is out and there's no food on the shelves and people are going, it's the alien invasion. It's like, remember when COVID started, they had videos of people being welded into their apartments in China, or whatever, saying that they're, and the people screaming and dragged off the street. That was all fake. All of that was fake. And people bought it. I know I was on radio shows and people are like, they're welding people into their homes in China. It was all fake. All of it. And it rolled out just like 9/11. And this will do the same. But if they want to get serious and pull the power grid, or give very limited power, we're heading into winter, they could control the narrative to most people. Remember, they don't have to convince everybody. They just got to get 90% of everybody convinced, and And the same with COVID. And there were some people in the beginning, including myself, going, okay, this smells like rotten fish in Denmark. But of course, the vast majority of people bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate you being here. Let me go to your website up here. I have it on the camera here. In here, you can go to the various menu options, and you'll be able to order that book from your website.
If you go to the website here, it's let's see, it's over on this side here, jamccsci.com.
Right.
Go up to the top. It says education. There's a drop-down menu, CDs, books, etc. Then click on that, and then there's some menus there to follow. It would be under the ebooks.
Okay.
Individual ebooks, and that's the very first one.
All righty. I'm scrolling down. There we go. Okay, yeah. So there is the, I have it on the screen here so people can see for themselves. So when they get there and all the items you have there, I do have the poster of your comet.
Yeah, I would suggest people also look at some of the other books, like the Planet X Comets and Earth Changes, and some of the other books to help them understand all of this.
All right. All right. Well, again, James, thank you for stopping by and setting us straight on this. This way, people got more information that they can use to try and see through the smokescreen and the manipulation that's coming. And then feel free, if anything comes up that you think needs to be done, let me know. I'd love to share and so forth.
Okay.
James McCanney, thank you for being here.
Thanks, James.
All righty.
Talk to you soon.